Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Gear QA 212, brought to you by Spark Cables, the cables with built-in fuzz. They're a sponsor today of today's show. I want to thank you guys for joining me and for them. And I hope everyone had a great week. It's Friday. It's Friday. And good thing I muted that. All right. So I hope everybody's doing well. I see a bunch of you already have jumped on. And of course, a lot of familiar faces, including our moderators like Amanda. I saw Floopity Doo. I think I saw Brian. And I saw somebody else. I saw. Hold on. I know I grabbed Aaron Short. Music, of course. I saw that one too. And I hope I grabbed everybody. Oh, unfreaking believable. There you go. You like how I always PG up his name? All right. So, couple good things to talk about. Lots of exciting stuff. If you're new to this podcast and you're joining me live, please, if you're talking to me, just put the question mark at the beginning of the statement or the question. It's just so I know to even look for it. Otherwise, I'm assuming you guys are talking to each other. The other thing is, if you're watching the rebroadcast, I timestamp every single thing that's relevant that we talk about on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're streaming it on all the other podcast platforms, well, I guess you just have to listen to it. So that's exciting. What else is exciting besides Spark Cables? That's cool. I'm excited about that. I hope you guys are excited about that as well. But I got to start something exciting. Something exciting happened to me this week. A couple things, but this one more so. As you guys know, I'm friends with Luis and Alvaro from Pedal Pal Effects. They make pedals. They make the Marshall in a box pedals. Now, they sent me a pedal this week. I want to share with you, and then I want to tell a secret that I haven't that the Pedal Pal guys don't know. Okay, so they sent me their brand new Pedal Pal 800. This is a JCM 800 in a box. This one has a new feature with a new switch and some voicings, but it's like their old one, but of course, more. It's like the old one, but more. There's your official marketing campaign, guys. It's like the original, but more. I also have their Plexi one, which I absolutely love. I am going to do a video of these two pedals. They didn't ask me to. I'm going to do it, but that's not why I'm sharing this with you. I'm sharing this with you because when this showed up, I was super, super excited, and I want to tell you why. I didn't want to tell the Pedal Pal guys this. So I love my Pal 800 pedal. I mean, I love it. If you want a Marshall, like you want to sound like an actual Marshall, I mean, I have those Marshalls in front of me. If you want it to sound like a Marshall, exactly like those amps, they've really nailed it. I want to say a year ago. It's been a while. It's been a while. I'm going to say a year. A year ago, my buddy Ralph was over, and he doesn't do pedals, right? He's got maybe one or two pedals here and there. And he said, I need a pedal for my amp at home. And I said, oh, okay. And I said, oh, well, check out whatever pedal you want, and then, take it. So he went through all my pedals, and then he took my 800, and I've never seen it again because he won't give it back because he loves it. And he pretty much told me he's never giving it back because he loves it. So I missed it. And then a new one showed up, a better one. So thank you guys. So not only thank you for Pedal Pal for doing that, but also now I can come clean and tell you guys, Pedal Pal guys, why I wasn't using my 800 because Ralph took it. And I didn't want to buy another one because I kept thinking, I'm like, if I buy another one, he's going to bring it back. I know it. But now he doesn't have to bring it back. It's officially, it's finders keepers, Ralph. You own it. Not that he watches the show, but if he does, because there's no thumbs down yet. If we got a thumbs down, we know Ralph was here. He's definitely keeping it. All right, Nathan says, that sounds like Ralph. Well, Ralph's, into gear, but not into gear, and he needed it. All right. Pedal Pal's here, so obviously they seen the story, so now you guys know the story. But I want to do a video comparing the two and explaining why I like them for different things. So there you go. I'm going to be adding some more pedal videos. As you know, Lauren sent me some pedals, and I have a couple pedals that I actually bought that I wanted from Keeley, and I bought from NewX and a couple others, and then I bought those Behringer pedals. So I plan to actually parcel out some pedal videos, probably one a week for the next couple of weeks. You'll be seeing those pop in, I'm sure. All right. What else is new? What else? Other exciting things. Oh, since I'm sharing stuff, and it's right here. I think I mentioned this when I did my 5 great moments in distortion history. My first pedal I ever owned was the DoD American Metal. You never believe this. I actually found one. I mean, you know, it's the internet, so of course you found one. But I mean, look, I found like an original box one from a store. When I do the review, I'm going to do the review. I have not heard it yet. I just unboxed it to make sure I got a little receipt from the store. I paid, let's see what I paid, just in case you're curious what they're going for. Oh, and I'll know the store. I can do the shout out because they really took care of me. It was a Sound of Music. So Sound of Music in Indiana, I paid $105.01 with tax. So $89.99. They had it for $100, and I offered them $89. And they took it, so like 10% off. And then afterwards, they sent me a message saying, "Hey, is this the Phil McKnight with the YouTube channel?" And I'm like, "Yes." And they're like, "Cool." And I said, "Well, I'll make sure to mention you for taking care of me, especially since, you know, they didn't know they knew who I was, but they didn't know who I was." So, whatever that means, whoever the heck I am. Anyways, so I'm going to be doing a video of this, but this is not a review. I'm going to do well, not an unboxing, but I'm going to plug it in and try it. I have not played this pedal since I was 17 years old. And if you guys don't know, that's like 1,000 years ago. So that's a long time. It's back when there was manual transmissions and cassette tapes. For some of you, probably A-tracks, me not so much. It was cassette tapes and manual transmissions. Anyways, so all right, let's get into probably the show. That would help if I stopped talking about this stuff. Another thing. Oh, more announcements. I apologize, but more announcements. We have new shirts, and I'm just pointing them out. The new shirts are the duck walk shirt that was requested. I didn't know. Apparently, they were up a couple weeks ago. I didn't know. My wife, you guys reached out. My wife had made some shirts per request. One of them was the duck walk with the new logo, but duck walk, and then the gold topless Paul shirt with the new logo. So the 2021 versions of the shirts. I'm just letting you know. Nothing limited, nothing special. Just letting you know they exist. Okay, and they'll exist for at least a year or 100,000 more subscribers, whichever. Well, definitely the year will come first. MJB and J said, "Where did the V come from?" Space. I bought it. It's a Gibson Flying V in white. This used to be Brian from Paint Huffers. So it's how it works in the world. He sold it, and then I bought it from somebody else, and just how it goes. And then I modded it. I think I put pictures on my Instagram about that. And then just like I put pictures of my new Parker that's there. These are not new. The V's new. The Parker I've had for a little while. Speaking of Instagram, God, it's just announcement day. I mentioned this, and I want to talk about a couple things that are really cool. So this will be part of the show, not so much announcements. If you go to my Instagram and you go, there's a contest, or not a contest, I don't know what you call it, a drawing. You can win. You can win a $1,000 worth of tools and parts and stuff. So basically, what happened was Stumac reached out to me. Her name is Allie. And super amazing person. She did everything. I wouldn't have done this if she didn't do everything. She literally did everything. She went on my YouTube channel, went through all my videos, found a video, which was my ultimate restring boxing video. Tackle box video. She went through that, found that video. She picked it. She went through and watched the entire video and wrote down every single thing that I put in that box. I had no idea when I made that video that there was almost $1,000, like $970 worth of stuff in that box that I made. And she got all of those things, including the box, I believe, all the stuff, and she's doing a giveaway for Stumac, so it's Stumac. But what's cool about this is, like 70% of the stuff's not even Stumac stuff. So, I mean, I think it'd be cooler, as you guys probably, if it was all Stumac stuff, but it's just to give you whatever's in that box. So that's how it goes. So you just go to my Instagram. If you don't like Instagram and social media, hey, you're not alone. You just basically got to follow me at Stumac, and then in a week they'll pull the winner, and then, unfollow from me if you want. I don't really post much on Instagram. I did it because literally she came to me with an offer I could not refuse, which is she did all the work and one of you will win $1,000 worth of stuff. I felt like a jerk if I didn't do it. I mean, I'd say I don't get anything out of it because I don't, but I mean, it would be really bad if I didn't do it. I just feel guilty if somebody didn't have an opportunity to win something, if all I had to do was what you just saw. That's the extent of the effort I put into this. I let you know it exists. So, and if you don't want to do it, I understand, government tracking your information on Instagram or whatever it is you're paranoid about. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the social media platforms as well, but I'm just letting you know it exists if you want to try and win it. All right. That was cool. All right, let's get into some questions. We have a lot today, so we are going to have to get through them. A couple of the early questions. Let's see if I can grab a couple of those. I'm going to try to pick ones. If you don't mind today, I'm going to try to pick some of the ones that just kind of pop out at me. I grabbed a bunch. There were so many. Let's see. Okay, I have no idea. See, I grabbed too many. Okay, so this one came from Max. It says, hey, good evening, Phil. Just watched the PRS Archon video. He's talking about the new Paul Reed Smith Archon 50. Do you think amps and tube amps in particular should have standby options? Pros and cons in your opinion. So in that video, I mentioned it, they got rid of the standby feature. Somebody mentioned, I don't know if it's true because I saw some back and forth on as there always is in the comment section. Somebody mentioned that in the EU, they've kind of like restricted, or they're not allowing standby switches, and that's maybe why Paul Reed Smith removed the switch. I have no idea. I prefer a standby switch, although I'm not in any kind of camp that says that amp needs it. I just prefer it. It's like I said, it's like a luxury item for me. I like to sometimes put the amp in standby, go get a drink of water. You know what I mean? For me, doing videos, standby switches are like a godsend, because when I'm in the room talking, it's nice to put the amp on idle, because a lot of amps make some kind of noise. If they're high gain amps, they're making a hiss sound. If they're lower gain amps, they still hum a little bit. There's always some kind of noise, and the mics are really sensitive. So in the room, it's kind of a pain in the butt to just, you have to turn the amp off. So in that video, I had no way other than just turning the amp off and doing it. And then I like to turn on the amp. I like to, when I'm demoing an amp like that, I like to have the amp warm up for at least 15 minutes before I start demoing it. Something I normally, so no one gets confused and asks me any questions, something I normally wouldn't care about. Like if I went to a gig, I would just turn on an amp right now and just start playing. I figure about halfway through the song, if it's warmed up, it'll be fine. Maybe the exception would be if it was really cold outside, but where I live, it's never cold outside. So, but when I'm demoing it, I like to have the amp run a little bit just to make sure that, there's no issues there. So Blake says standby switch should be on all amps. Yeah, like I said, it's nice. I noticed that on the amps that are ultra quiet, very few tube amps are ultra quiet, but the ones that are ultra quiet that don't have standby switches, I don't mind it. It's only on the ones that kind of hum. And like I said, some just hum. They just kind of make some noise, as things do. There's a lot of stuff packed in those boxes that basically cause a lot of noise between the components, and not every amp can be perfect, I guess, is the best way to put it. James Taylor says Victory amps changed the standby to preheat because the EU regulations. Okay, that's kind of funny. I'm preheating my amp like my oven. You get to preheat it. That's definitely somebody working the literal rules. All right. Next, they'll have timers on amps. You can only play an amp for 30 minutes, and then it's got to turn off. Okay. Okay, let's do another. We got to do at least another pre-question. Let's do this. This one's from Kurt. Kurt says, "Hey Phil, what are the best sounding pickups we cannot get separate from the guitar?" So he's talking about basically when a guitar manufacturer has a specific pickup that you can't get, aftermarket wise. What are the best sounding ones? Best is obviously all an opinion. I'm just going to tell you some of my favorites. My three favorite guitars where the pickups, you cannot get the pickups unless you buy the guitar. Definitely the Music Man Axis. I love those pickups. I also love the John Mayer Fender Strat pickups and the John Mayer Silver Sky pickups. And deep down, I hate that you can't buy those pickups. But of course, I understand why companies do it. I understand all the logic, and I'm not here to fault it or complain. I'm just saying, I did say I hate it though, huh? I guess what I meant is I wish I could buy them aftermarket. All right. And then, let's see. And then Brad Coleman says he watched the Muse review video. That was the Epiphone Muse video I did. It says, would an Epiphone actually benefit from a better fit and finish on the frets, etc.? Is it too expensive to do it at the factory? Is there no profit doing it for $500? So realistically, the fit and finish on a guitar is real simple. Some companies have great fit and finish on guitars. Now, we're looking about consistency, right? Not all guitars are perfect, but we're looking for the majority, right? We want the majority. I have played Harley Benton guitars that are $150 that were fine. They came out of the box fine. I've played Squires. I played Affinity Squires that came out of the box fine. You know what I mean? And I've played expensive guitars. You know, you guys saw I reviewed the Made in Japan RG565 a couple months ago, and it had fret issues. And it's a $1,000 Made in Japan guitar. No guitar is, well, not no, but you know, I mean, no brand seems to be 100% perfect, and that's not what I don't think they should be. But you know, that's the downfall of this new medium where people like me are like, get a guitar and review it. I'm reviewing technically the brand and that line of guitars, but I only have one sample. Realistically, what would be great in a perfect world is if companies would send you 2 or 3 of the same guitar. You know what I mean? In these cases, I bought those guitars, so I can't buy 2 or 3 of the same guitar. I just can't do it. It's barely, I would say barely. It's not even breaking even doing it the way I'm doing it now. So I mean, I couldn't do it much worse than that. I mean, you know, I couldn't do it financially. It's just too much to ask. The videos have to do 100,000 views in most of those cases to break even, and they just don't do it. So back to the thing, it'd be nice if a company sent like 2 or 3 models, you know what I mean, for a review. The problem is that companies don't see a review video different than a demo video like I do. I look at a review video as an opinion-based video. Like, I'm going to look at that with my eyes, which are, you know, fixing guitars all day, selling, you know, guitars, you know, in my prior life, you know. So I want to tell you all the things I've learned about guitars in the idea that hopefully I can become, like I said, a surrogate for you. Like, you're not here, you're not touching it, but I can at least tell you what I see and what I feel, and then give you a sound sample. But I know deep down, like, if you want a really good sound sample, just go find the demo players that are obviously way better guitar players, but also taking the time to, you know, make it sound amazing in their studios and stuff. And that'll give you some kind of idea of what the guitar can sound like in its best situation. But manufacturers don't really see it that way. In fact, you got to understand, only very few manufacturers, and they deserve the credit for sure. You got to understand, there's very few manufacturers that have, God, I used this word twice this week, the balls, but I don't know another way to say it. I'm sorry. The guts, the intestinal fortitude. There you go. I'll throw it back to the Army days. Very few companies have the intestinal fortitude to do those things. You know, Paul Reed Smith guitars, you gotta understand, they sent me an Archon, and then that Archon, I had to explain that the one they sent me was defective. I just want you to be aware of something where they deserve, I feel, where they deserve an accolade. That video has 20,000 views. That's not a lot of views, okay? I mean, it's not a lot of views in the grand scheme of the internet. However, I can tell you right now, it is the highest viewed video of that amp, that new amp, on the internet right now. If you were to look right now, if you were to look up the new Archon video, there's mine at 20,000 views, then maybe Paul Reed Smith's video, their actual video is at 13,000. A couple of music stores, a couple of people. Of course, that'll grow and somebody will eventually pass me. But you gotta understand, the #1 watched video on YouTube about their brand new product is me saying it's got problems. I'm glad they did it. I mean, it sucks that it had to happen that way, but I'm glad they had the intestinal fortitude to take it. You know what I mean? Because, and here's the reality of it. As we've talked about before, the real test will be if I get something again from them. You know what I mean? I've had a couple bad PRS products, and we've talked about them. And so far, they keep sending me products. Some are good, some are bad. That's how it works. It works out great. You know what I mean? When the companies have the guts. The other thing is, it would be nice if companies didn't prep instruments. I'm getting into a habit now where I'm noticing whenever a company says loan, they'll loan me a guitar. This is really getting a common thing. I just want to go on a tangent about this. that guitar is rigged. It's rigged. That Epiphone that I reviewed a year ago, which was the Lizzie Hale guitar, I said it in the video. I think I mentioned in the video that guitar, look, I work on guitars all day. I was working on guitars this morning, all morning, okay? I work on guitars all day. I can tell when a guitar, I don't care how good a guitar is, I can tell when a factory did something and when somebody after the fact went over it. There's a different amount of attention that goes to a guitar when a tech, an after the factory tech goes through it. Somebody like me, we're doing different things. We're really polishing. We're really finite. We're really, you know what I mean? That guitar was perfect. And the frets were perfect, and everything was perfect. And I've had good experience with Epiphone, so you know. But I've never had an experience with Epiphone that was that good. And that guitar obviously had to go back. And it's in my feeling, and I'm not just picking on them guys. There's others. They send you the guitar, and then I feel like that guitar is going to another YouTuber. That's why they want it back, right? Especially stuff like that. You got to understand a lot of these guitars. The reason they got left behind is because there's not enough money in them to makes sense to keep shipping them over and over again to guitars. So I'm not really interested or excited about the loaner guitars anymore. I'm finding the companies sending me loaner guitars are just having techs after the fact, you know, making sure they're polished and perfect, which I always mention in the videos. I figure that helps you guys. But it'd be nice. I like when I, like in this case, the last couple of videos I've done where I buy the guitars and then there's no, you know what I mean? There's no misconception. There's no possible problems that I can come across that aren't going to be, you know, from factory defect. Which is one of the things, again, one thing that's nice about the companies like Glary Guitars and Donner and all those, I dare say, cheapy or inexpensive, I don't want to insult anybody, inexpensive importy guitars like that. None of those companies rig anything. So, you know, all those guitars, almost every Donner guitar that's ever been reviewed on YouTube and every Glary guitar, those are sent from Amazon fulfillment centers. So Glary and Donner has no idea what's going on. They just contact you and they say, hey, will you review it? Usually all those companies will say, how much do you want to do a video? That's really what they say. How much do you want to do a video? And then, you know, you can decide if you want to get paid or if it's free gear, whatever the deal is. But whenever it is they send you, it comes straight from Amazon. So they had no chance to touch it. So that's why, like on those guitars, sometimes when one's good and one's bad, I feel pretty confident knowing that I got this random selection because I know it came from Amazon. There was no way they could have, nobody at Amazon setting up guitars. So like I said, that's my little tangent. I'll get back on track now. Okay, back on track. We got to get into some questions and stay on track. The first question was from Brandon. He says, hey, I have a player Stratocaster with a fingerboard so glossy that my fingers stick to it and I can't bend the strings. Okay, so I'm assuming it's the maple fretboard because that is sometimes the problem I have with maple fretboards is I like maple fretboards only with taller frets and also when they're satin, I don't like the same thing. My fingers do the same thing. It says, how do I knock the gloss off a bit without damaging it? If I was going to do it, like if you brought it to me and I was going to do it, you could use steel wool. You can use a ton of things. The thing I would do is whatever I took to your fretboard, I would take to your frets. So I like the micro mesh stuff. You can buy it on Amazon for $20. You could get a kit micro mesh pad. It's going to be 8 sheets, maybe 9 sheets and a pad. And I would do the whole thing, man. Do your frets, do the fretboard. It will polish your frets to glass, but it will also satin a little bit that finish because it won't buff that stuff back to gloss again. I've done that many times. It works great. $20. You can't mess it up. Of course, you know, the downfall of saying that, you'll mess it up. But I mean, really, I feel very confident. No video instruction, no nothing. Just you get that thing. There's 9 sheets. You start with the 1500. You'll end at 12,000. What I would probably do is somewhere around, I don't know. Let me think. 4,000 grit, maybe 3,600 grit. I would stop hitting the fretboard. So in other words, do the 1500, then I think it goes 1800, then it's 2400, then 3200, then 3600. And I would do the whole fretboard, frets and everything. And then after that, when it goes 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 12,000, those 4 sheets, I would just hit the frets. and use a fret guard. And that way your fretboard you don't have to worry about buffing that a little back to shine again. That will work perfect. On the polyurethane finish on that, great. You could also go the opposite way and try to make it slickery. That's a Ron Thorne word. The thing you can do is, which is easier, you could use some Meguiar's Carmenuba wax without any pumice in it, and you could buff the fretboard so it's even slipperier, you know what I mean? So when you're bending, you're not getting caught up on that. Or use fast fret or finger ease. Finger ease, if you spray that stuff on there, it's like Pam cooking oil for your guitar, man. Literally, it's just gonna be, if you like it. Some people, look, when back in the days of the store, we used to sell tons and tons of finger ease. I have a can of it downstairs for customers because sometimes they already have it on their guitar. I clean off their guitar and then I just put it back the way it was. Me, not my thing. Never. I tried it once and I was like, yeah, not for me. I'm never putting finger ease on my guitar. However, that being said, I can name hundreds of people that I've sold it to and they love it. So, and it's easy, man. You just take this stuff and just put it on there. That would be zero effort. And you can't, and you can always try these things. That would be the easiest thing. And very, very, Foxman just made me laugh. He's like, file off your fingerprints. I don't recommend that. Not for that situation, at least. So here. All right. Okay. So the next one comes from Michael, who says, hey, I have a pickup that's a Bill Lawrence wound shortly after he passed away. Okay. So obviously not by Bill then. You mean shortly before he passed away? He says shortly. Oh, it says shortly before. Why did I say after? You're right. Shortly before he passed away, I think the wire that connects to the coil has lost connection, but the pickup has epoxy sealed. It depends. If you have the L500, I don't think that's epoxy. I think there's a plastic casing and they drop those two coils in there. The L90, I think, is epoxied, and you can see it's a big caked on epoxy. What I can tell you, if you watch a video with my Fishman versus EMG video, in that video, there's footage. I never did. You never use the footage for any other video. There's footage of me cutting an EMG apart, and what happened was I did exactly what you're talking about. I wanted to get through that epoxy and see what I could do with an EMG. What I learned from that is you can't. Once epoxied, it's just epoxied, man. I tried all kinds of stuff. However, here's the thing about that. And that pickup, there's a hole drilled in the bottom, and then there's a gray wire, and that's where the braids of wire come out of it. In other words, there's going to be your four wires, 2 grounds, and then 3 other wires. It's very unlikely that the wire broke off inside there. It's just very unlikely. I mean, that thing would have to bend so many times for one of those wires to finally crack. So definitely, if you haven't done this, get a multimeter. You can go down to Harbor Freight, $5. Somebody says you can get them for free if you go to like certain sales of theirs, but $5. It's $5, $5.99. Go get a multimeter if you don't have one, and test the pickup. And that will tell you. That way you don't have to worry about it. You can sometimes. I've had this experience, and it happened once. Okay, it's happened to me once with a Bill Lawrence pickup. So that's why I think about it, because it happened with a Bill Lawrence pickup where the wires weren't right. Like, in other words, the red wasn't the red. It was, it was the white, and the black, you know what I mean? They had messed up the wires, putting in the wires. So if I was going, so in that situation, that happened to me, that was about 6-7 years ago. I was wiring up the guitar and it wasn't sounding right and it wasn't working, you know what I mean? And it was because I was wiring the right color codes, but the colors were incorrect. So hopefully that's something else. So test them, just test them all. I have a video on that if you don't know how to do it. Super easy. $6. Hopefully it solves your problem. If not, take it to somebody. I think that's part of your question too, is who can you take it to? Do you know when you can fix it? I don't know anyone personally that can fix it. More importantly, my problem is everyone I think, I guess want to say like me too, that I think could probably even fix it won't do it because there's not enough money to charge for that. You know what I mean? I could be stuck 2 hours doing that, and that would be, $150, $200 with the labor on a pickup that you can buy for $79. So that's where everybody's going to come. Hopefully, there you go. So hopefully the other things I suggested work. Matt's question was tone and price aside. Okay, fine. We won't think about those things. What guitar feels the best to you to play? So, I go to Strats all the time. I say Strats, but over time, it's Strat-esque guitars. That's really what it is. Arm carve, anything that's comfortable on the arm, anything that's comfortable in the body contours. SGs are very comfortable for me. I play my SG a lot. So like on the guitars you see behind me, I'll play typically anything that's a Strat-esque guitar and then an SG style guitar. Those I'll grab way more than the Paul Reed Smiths where they cut into your arm, or the Les Pauls, which I love those guitars and I play them, but they're just not as comfortable to me. I really, really dig just a Strat. I'm pointing at a Strat for those listening. And the Kiesel and the Ibanez. Strat-esque guitars, or like I said, the SG style guitars. My Mira, the reason I like it is the same thing. It's a shape. But the Mira to me is a non-top heavy-esque SG. It's like Paul outsmarted. It's not even Paul. It's Joe Nags. Joe Nags did the Mira. so you know. Which is why I love Nags guitars. I want a Nags X. I just having trouble to find one. I bought a Nags. You guys saw that video. Liked it. I figured out real fast I want the X, which is the 12-inch radius fretboard. But back to that saying, the Mira is a Joe Nags creation, and I love it. It's the best PRS they ever made, and they don't promote it. Probably because it's Joe Nags, if you guys don't know, from Nags Guitars. So, I don't know. There. So that's the guitars I gravitate towards. Comfort. I'm a comfort person. It's really simple. It is. So you were talking about price and tone. Price and tone are never first in my thoughts when picking guitar. It's all about how does the neck feel? How does it feel on my arm? It's all comfort for me. Once it's comfortable, the price I'll have to figure out how to get there. And then the tone, I'll fight with that too. If I have to change pickups or change stuff or switch amps, whatever I have to do, I will make that eventually work. So... Tony says, I'd like a Nags. Yeah, I'm looking. Like I said, I'm looking. I'm waiting. I want the Nags Sovereign X. Okay, so next is from Adam, who says, what is the easiest way to install Fender's staggered locking keys? There's no instructions or any guide to where they go. Okay, well, hold on. Let me put you on our new screensaver and grab one. Ta-da! Look, it's like a semi-professional show. Here's a Strat with locking keys that are staggered, as you can see. There are two ways. For those listening, I'm holding up three fingers because, at least I laugh at my stupidity. I hope you guys do too. Anyways, there are two ways you can do it if you have the 3-3 system. 3-3 being three long key tuning keys like this. See, there's the long ones. Three short ones. Some Fenders, depending on what staggered set you got, will give you two long ones and four short ones. So if you have two long ones and four short ones, you put the two long ones here and the four short ones here. If you have the 3 and 3, I know you guys think you know where I'm going with this. You're wrong. If you have 3 long ones and 3 short ones, you have two options. You can put the 3 long ones in a row as your low E, A, and D string, and then you can take the 3 short ones and be your G, B, and E string. Or if you have one string tree, especially if you have 2, that's how you want to do it. If you have one string tree, like most Fender guitars, okay, you can put one long one where your low E is, then 3 short ones in the middle, right here, okay? I know what you're thinking. That sounds weird. It's not. We do it all the time for customers. The reason being is that it makes no sense to have 2 short ones here. Okay? I mean, it doesn't not make sense, but it's not needed. The strings are pushed down by the string tree. So they're not going... If you look at these short ones are taller than the string tree. If you look at your guitar right now, if you have this Fender just like me, you'll see it. These go down to the string tree, and then it goes up slightly back to the tuners. So a trick that sometimes we've used especially with dealing with some intonation issues on Strats, sometimes playing issues, some players are different. We do this trick a lot. We take one of the 3 long ones, we put it here at the low E, so it goes there, and then by putting the 3 short ones here, see these 3 strings, the A, D, and G, they now get more downward angle. It's like they have a string tree right there, and then the tall ones. Now, people, sometime if you're OCD, you're going to freak out because it looks like one tall, three shorts, and then two. But it's done all the time. All the time. So those are your options, if that helps. No, and I was going to say there's all variables too, but most of the Fender locking keys, since you said Fender brand ones, are going to be the 3-on-3s. Very few are going to be the 2-on-4s. So there you go. If you're really lucky and you have an old school set, but you said you just got a set, some of the old ones are 2 longs, 2 mediums, 2 shorts. So, all right, let's go back to the main thing. Where are we at? Okay, any comments on that? SCJR says, don't the staggered tuning keys eliminate the need for the string tree? No. There are more. I had this argument when Fender made my custom shop Strat that you see behind me. I'm pointing, maybe, for those listening. I'm pointing at my copper Strat. That's a custom built. It's a custom shop Fender that was custom built. So not a custom shop. I always want to clarify that. Like, you can buy a custom shop Fender online right now, but it's not custom to you. It's just this guitar you buy that's from the custom shop. I had that custom made. On that guitar, they used the staggered Schaller locking keys. And then I said, I want a string tree, like the one you see now, like most Fenders. You want a string tree on your high E and your B. And the Fender guys told me, oh no, you don't need it if you have staggered keys. And I said, I want it anyways. When they made the guitar, they didn't put it on, even though I asked for it. I think it was just to spite me, I guess. When I got it, I was like, oh, I guess I don't need it. After about a week, it was driving me crazy. So here's why sometimes you need the string tree. Here's what it does besides, because you can just take it off the string tree. Like, here's the guitar that I said has a string tree. Look, I just took it off. These strings are no longer on the string tree. They ring. Let's see if I can do it. I don't know if you can hear that. They ring like crazy. So sometimes the string tree does more of the down pressure. Sometimes it actually stops the ringing. That's why people, especially the metal guys, the gent people, will put all kinds of mutes or clamps or all kinds of stuff after the nut to mute those strings from ringing out. I don't like the ringing. You might like it. You might think it's cool. If you do, great. Me, I don't like it. So that fixes that problem. So it's the thing about this, which is very important, is I know the internet creates a little bit of this problem. Okay? But there seems to be this always existed issue of yes or no answers to everything. Do I need this? No. Do I need this? Yes. And the answer is, well, sometimes you may want it. Sometimes you may not. Sometimes it works for that guitar. Like I was telling you about the different ways to do those staggered keys. Of course, Fender's doing it the 3 long and then 3 short. That makes sense that maybe 90% of the time. But there's times where we've learned to manipulate those tuning keys to fix a problem. And I want everyone to think like that. That's why I think the way, look at all the builders out there, like Paul Reed Smith, and just picking on him because he was a repair guy, like a lot of stories, a lot of these guys, repair guys that started building guitars. They started building guitars based on this logic of, I was fixing everybody's guitars, so I was looking at what they were doing wrong. When you fix guitars all the time, it doesn't make you smarter than anybody at all when it comes to guitar stuff. But it does make you look at a problem differently. I don't look at problems as so much as, oh, this is defective, or this is good. I hate this, or I like this. It's, I need the customer to take the guitar back from me so I can get money and feed my kids and pay my mortgage. So I need the customer to be happy. So I'm trying to solve a problem that they have. And sometimes you have to think differently if you're going to solve that. For instance, whatever we were just talking about a little while ago with the fretboard issue, it's nice when somebody comes to you and says, I don't care what it costs, Phil, fix it. And I'm like, great. And it's even better when they're like, I don't care how long it takes and how much it costs. You're like, great, it'll be done. But that's not the world most of us live in. Most of us live in the, I need it by next Friday because I'm going to so-and-so and I can't, blah. Oh, and by the way, my budget is this. And you're like, that's the world you have to live in. So you have to find a way to fix the problem. So the reason I'm telling you all this is because I don't want you guys to ever think in such a small mindset of you don't need this, you do need this, it's bad or good. Some guitars work, some guitars don't. One of my patrons on the Facebook group posted, that was Bob. Sorry, Bob, if you're watching and I didn't respond. I saw you post it. I didn't get a chance to respond. He put that he has a telly that he loves. He has 10s on it. He just got a new telly and he put 10s in it. It was just, even though same bridge, same everything, he said it just wasn't working. So he put 9s, and he said, he was quoting something I said on a podcast once where I said, you don't pick your strings, your guitar does. And again, that's not some kind of weird, guitar builder logic. That's not kind of weird. I'm a veteran guitar player, touring musician. That's literally like, I've dealt with people who are like, I have to make this playable for them. And sometimes, even though they tell you, hey, Phil, I have 10 guitars and I only play 10s on them. And so therefore I need 10s on this guitar, but it's playing stiff. I could go through hell and back to try to make this guitar better, but sometimes I can go, well, let's try 9s on it and see what happens. And you put 9s and they go, well, it feels good. Now I just want it to feel like that with 10s. I'm like, why? It feels great the way it is. So just giving you some insights. All right. Okay, let's go back to questions. Questions come next from is Zach. Zach says, hey, Phil, looking to get a thin line telly with a Bigsby. What are your thoughts on Bigsby tellies versus standard setup? Thanks so much. I like Bigsby's. Behind me right now, I have a Bigsby on my Gretsch. The V has the Duesenberg, which is a very Bigsby-esque type bridge. I have one on my SG as well. I like Bigsby-style bridges. To me, tremolo bridges are not all equal. A Strat tremolo, a Bigsby type, just think types. Don't worry about Godos and all the brands. Strat tremolo, Bigsby tremolo, Floyd Rose, just those three. They all do the stuff. They all make wiggle sounds, but they feel differently. Bigsby's feel, I think I've said this before, Bigsby's to me feel like a Cadillac. It's like riding on a couch driving down the road, especially old Cadillacs. You know what I mean? Just everything feels like, yeah, this is the Bigsby. Like, you're not in a hurry. You just hit a note, that note's just going to ride the wave a little bit. You know what I mean? And it feels great. And when I pick up a guitar with that style tremolo, when I hit a note and I use it, that's how I feel. When I play a Strat, it's a little bit more aggressive than that feeling. It's more of a, you know what I mean? It's more like a truck, right? I'm going to feel all the bumps in the road. I know this is a weird analogy. Please go with it. You know what I mean? It's not bad, but you feel everything. And I feel more like connected to the guitar and where the note is. A Floyd Rose is like a doom buggy. It's just out there. It's crazy. It's bouncing up and high, it's bouncing down low. It's just crazy. So the reason I say that is I like all those bridges for that reason. They all have a different vibe and feel to them. So I like the Bigsby on a guitar. Would I put a Bigsby on my telly? I wouldn't, because I have a Bigsby on other guitars. So if if you want to put one on your telly, do it. So the answer is, yeah, I think you'll dig it. But part of your question was, would I do it? I wouldn't do it, but for no other reason than I have a Bigsby on a guitar I like. I have a Bigsby style on a V. I always wanted this. Look, this V, to me, this is just a Hendrix thing. I just want to play. I love Anthrax, and I play a lot of Anthrax. I just want to play, I don't know why, I just want to play Anthrax on a V with a Jimi Hendrix vibe, because it makes me laugh, and that's what I need at the end of a long day. Gravedigger Dale says, hey, Phil, I have a Vox 110 10-watt amp. Anything over half volume, the high notes crackle, low notes kind of buzz. Gets worse if I turn up the reverb. I'm thinking speaker, anything else. Well, just because you said you turn up the reverb and it gets worse makes me think it might not be your speaker. I don't think the speaker would know reverb is on or off. You know what I mean? And the speaker's just moving. Like, I don't think that would affect it messing up. I'm thinking you have a tube problem. Especially, I don't know that amp. I'm not versed in every amp, especially that amp. I don't know if that is a tube reverb. If it is a tube reverb, my first guess would be your tube is bad in your reverb. These are easy fixes on an amp like that. You don't even have to buy new preamp tubes if you don't have them. You can just swap them. Just take note of where they are. Make sure they're not hot. Pull them out. Plug in different spots and see where the problem goes. See if that fixes. You know what I mean? But otherwise, I'd say it's a tube preamp. It could be your power tube too. The good thing about tube amps, and this is why it's the worst question to ever ask, because the answer, like I said, it's like the IT joke I keep telling you, right? It's like you go to your IT person, you're like, hey, my computer, and they're like, turn it off, turn it back on. You know what I mean? I think I told you guys, again, prior life, before my old life, I used to work for a finance company in an IT position, and we did telephony, if you know what that is, like dialer systems and stuff, and we did reporting on Oracle and stuff, and everyone in the building, I used to have to give them the same answer, turn off your computer, and they always look at me, and I'm like, it's because every time they turn off the computer and turn on the computer, they were reconnecting, to the network, and they would have a new connection because the connections were random. So if it was a connection problem, we know right away because if they kicked it loose. So the reason I tell you this is almost everything if you have a tube amp and you have any problems with your tube amp, your first go-to should always be the tubes. First, they are the most unreliable pieces of crap ever known to man. Why every tube amp company complains, why everybody has trouble with them. They're unreliable, they're problems. So they're probably the problem. And then literally, then if you've solved that, it doesn't matter. New tubes aren't going to hurt your amp, obviously. So once you've done that, and if you're still having a problem, then it could be something even more extreme. Or like I said, that speaker. The other thing is on that amp, if it has a speaker out, you can always run it to another speaker, see if that kicks the problem. But I'm going to say you're still going to have the problem because it sounds to me like a tube problem. Even though if it didn't, I'd probably still suggest some kind of tube changing. But in your particular description, it sounds to me like a tube problem. Greg says, after a long week, this is my happy hour with friends. A tip for Phil for Guitar Tender. Man, I appreciate that. This is my happy hour too. It's nice to it really makes my week feel like a week now. Because I'm like, oh, it's a Friday. It's the show today. So it feels good. Speaking of which, some of you guys mentioned why wasn't there a Wednesday show? It's a long story. Doesn't matter. All it matters is I couldn't do the live show. So what I did was, that's why you got two video on Wednesday and on Thursday. I stacked up the videos so that you guys, so I felt like I was at least getting something out to you guys there. Long story short, we will have a Wednesday show this coming Wednesday. So I had to push it back. It was actually the shortest response to that whole problem is I was off on what week I thought I was on. Does it make sense? It happens. Today's the 21st. I can see right here. Sometimes, in fact, I just thought I was on a different week of the month than I was when I made the comment last week about doing it. It happens. During COVID, man, every day is Monday. I just wake up and every day is the same day. It's like Groundhog Day every day. So sometimes my weeks and my months are getting a little messed up. Kitty Cat Man 93, because there was 92 other Kitty Cat Mans. That was a long time before you got that sign on, huh? He's like, 91? Nope. 92? Nope. 93? I'm Kitty Cat 93. Thank goodness. Anyways, he says, hey, Phil, just a quick thanks. Your videos have made me more informed a buyer and given me confidence to start doing my own guitar maintenance. Awesome. Dude, you can't hear anything better than that. Hearing somebody save some money and save some money again by doing their own work. It's the best answer ever. So that compliment's always way better than when I hear like, oh, because of you, I had to buy all this stuff. I know that's part of the channels too. Showing you new stuff and then you want to buy stuff because we're all like that. But, I like thinking sometimes that I do, more to help. Not that buying stuff's bad, but saving money's better, in my experience. For those kids watching, saving money's better always than spending money, in my experience. Steven says, when refretting a neck, please explain fall away. Do you level the fretboard slightly lower where the neck meets the body? Okay, so these are two questions. I want to hit the first one first because just to make sure everyone else knows what he's asking me. So you've all seen it. You can watch tons of videos where people level fretboards. I got a few right where I'm leveling the frets on a fretboard. Generally, when you're leveling frets on a guitar, you're leveling all the frets to each other. That's the basic, no trickery, no nothing, very upfront, right? You could just take a neck off a guitar body, even like a Strat neck, just throw it on a bench, take out your bar, put some sandpaper on it, and just sand those puppies until they're all level. So that is how you would do that. Now, what he's talking about is something else, okay? Sometimes this happens. I like to call it the 12th fret hump on acoustic guitars, but sometimes we see where the neck is a little warped, or there's a bump. And it's usually on, but like I said, above the 12th fret all the way down to somewhere around the 22nd fret, depending on your guitar, 24 frets, 21 frets, whatever it is. And what happens is that if you level all the frets, that still doesn't correct the problem, because the frets will be level with each other, but there'll still be this angle that's jacked up. So if you can adjust the bridge, sometimes if you can adjust stuff, you can adjust away the problem. That's your first go-to, right? Sometimes even though the bridge doesn't feel the same when you raise it too high, you know what I mean? Sometimes we shim the neck if we have that ability, change the angle. There's all kinds of things we're going to do. However, what he's still asking is, what happens if all those things fail? Would you plane down those frets? So those frets, let's say fret 13 to 22, they'll be thinner than the other frets to create this new line. So the question, so I just want to go back to it because I went through that explanation, is, do I do that? When refretting a neck, please explain the follow away. Do you level the fretboard slightly lower where the neck is? So I just kind of explained it. I would do that if I have no other recourse. Because again, the problem is that the good news is that typically you're going to wear dense spots. I shouldn't say dense. You're going to wear divots in the lower frets, the lower part of the neck. So it's not going to be a problem that your higher frets are lower thickness than your lower frets. So it's not an overly important concern, but you definitely don't want to do that if you don't have to. Would I do that if I felt like I said, I've done everything and there's just no other way to get this neck to play the way it needs to? Yeah, of course. It's like I said, you solve problems. This is how we're going to solve the problem. So that's what I would do. The next part of his question was super glue or type-on for frets. Super glue is what I use. In fact, if you see my refret video where I refretted stainless steel frets on a Clary guitar, I was using the really thin super glue. That's what I like to use. That's what a lot of companies will use. Cortec uses that. PRS uses that. I mean, it's common. It's really good. Type-on wood glue, in my experiences, wouldn't even work. It's not thin enough to really get in the slot. The only good part about type-on wood glue is it's pretty much bulletproof when it comes to making a mess. It means wherever you get it, you can just take it off with a damp cloth. So it's not like it's a big deal like super glue when it gets out a little wildly and gets out of out of where you want it from. But I've never seen the type-on bond to the metal, so I wouldn't do it. I've seen people try to use it as filler. So sometimes your slots in your fretboard are deep, and they put the fret in, and there's a gap underneath the fret where the slot was cut a little too deep, and I'll see people try to use wood glue as a filler. I was willing to bet in almost every case that the wood glue didn't go all the way through anyways, right? They only probably were capping off the ends and just kind of doing that. I would personally, in that situation, I would either take a sliver of wood and fill it and then redo it, or I would fill it with the glue, the super glue, because it's gonna grab that stuff. It's gonna be good. I know. You know how I know? Because it's a nightmare sometimes. Sometimes it's a nightmare to pull frets out when they're super glued. Mostly when I say nightmare, it's not that it's hard. It's just smells horrible. So, you got to make sure you're wearing your goggles, and you definitely need to wear a respirator if you want to have good lungs. But more importantly, you need goggles because it burns the hell out of your eyes. So it's really bad, really bad. So, okay. Next question comes from Andrew. No, Andre. Sorry, Andre says, hey, my SE standard neck moves a lot. Seems like it's made of two pieces of wood glued longitudinally. I know what you mean, man. I'm gonna say vertical. The wood is going vertical with the neck. It's going the length of the neck. Okay, so we're good with that. Is that normal? And what can I do? So it is normal that the wood would have multi-pieces. You're saying it's 2 pieces. I'm willing to bet it's 3. So you're going to see 3 strips of wood, and maybe because the guitar is stained a color, the back of the neck, and you're probably not sighting, you're probably seeing 2 of the pieces look the same, and you're thinking it's 2 pieces, and one's looking probably thicker. That would really give it away to you. If you think one, it's like a 60-40 split on your neck. One piece is 60% of the neck and one piece is 40. My guess is that it's 3 equal pieces, is my guess. I would be really shocked if it wasn't. I haven't seen that. I've heard stories that sometimes manufacturers have done weird things and shipped it out, but I have not seen that where they took 2 pieces instead of 3. So 3 pieces, totally normal. Running the length of the neck. Awesome. Actually makes the neck more stable, because they usually will take and flip the grain so the centerpiece is going a different direction than the sides. And sometimes they even use a quarter sawn piece for the center, which is why when I do reviews on the guitars, I talk about that, which ones have it and which one don't. And then, of course, that's to make the guitar better. But of course, as you're saying, it's moving. Now, moving is a tricky thing, and here's why. And this is probably the best answer to that question ever. That's a question you get all the time. Like, hey, my neck's moving all the time. Well, moving is not an actual explanation of a problem. I need to know how much it's moving. So let me give you an example. Sometimes if you run your action really low, let's say you're running 1 millimeter off the 12th fret, right, which is really, really low action, your neck moves just a little bit. Now you're buzzing. And you're like, see, my neck moved again. But, it probably moved very little. You know what I mean? There's a reason why everyone who loves to just remind you how cheap stuff is just fantastic and everything is just hyped and BS. It's like they haven't, when you work on this stuff, man, sometimes you can just, not only do I want to curse, but I just want to smash something right now thinking about it. Sometimes when you're working on an inexpensive guitar, when it just won't come together, it just reminds you why inexpensive stuff is only cool when it's right, and why it's a horrible mess when it's not. So give you an example is, if you really want a neck that's stable, thicker necks are better. It's just a fact. Thicker necks don't move as much. There's less play with the moisture. There's the truss rod's not working so hard because the neck's thick, right? It's no different than anything else. It's literally thick neck. The material the neck is made out of, maple, strong, versus other materials. Back to your problem, I would have to know how low you're running your action to know how extreme the problem is. For instance, if your action was high and you're having issues where the neck is pitching, it's pitching in directions to the point where it's buzzing one day and then not buzzing one day, and it's really high off the fretboard, that's an extreme sway, I guess is what I'd call it, where it's going either way. So here's what I'll tell you what I want you to do. It's not about fixing it. It's about diagnosing it. Remember, you don't have to learn to work on your guitars to save yourself money and make yourself a smarter consumer of guitars or player of guitars, whatever you want to call it. You need to learn to be a diagnostic specialist. That's the best thing ever for everything. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's guitars. This is great advice. If you want to learn how not to get screwed in life by people who fix things, learn to be informed in what they're fixing, right? If you don't want to pay $6,000 to have a $12 part replaced on your car, or a $3,000 for a $500 part on your air conditioning unit, you need to not only hopefully find somebody you trust to do the work, but more importantly, just be a little informed in diagnostics. In other words, understanding when they're saying, right? It's not really fun when they're like, oh, you got to replace your capacitor in your air conditioning unit. That's going to be 10 grand. You're like, that doesn't make sense. That's not an expensive part. You know what I mean? You want to know a little bit. So back to your guitar and this issue, I would do 2 things. First, you've seen in all my videos, I have so many setup videos, but also in all the review videos where I'm taking my finger pressing on the 1st fret, then the last fret, in your case, 24th fret probably, and then I'm tapping around the 12th fret to see where the neck is. Find out how straight your neck is one day, and then if you can, measure it, see where the action's at. And then the next time it moves, a day later, a couple days later, don't even worry about the weather, what caused the problem. We're not worried about cause. We're worrying about how much it's moving. Then measure again when it's moved, and then you'll know how much it moved. That will tell you a lot. Like I said, if it's moving a little bit, then here's how you fix that. It's just the sad truth of it. If you came to me and you were dealing with this and we made an adjustment and then you went home and you came back the next week and you're like, it moved again, At some point, I would probably tell you, like, look, we need to adjust the action to 2 millimeters off the 12th fret. We're going to make some adjustments, and you'll never notice a problem. It'll move a little bit, move a little back a little bit. It'll always play. One day it'll play a little better than the other day. That's how you live past it. Or you'll have to sell off the guitar and buy a different guitar. And not even a different brand. Just some guitars, you know. It's like why I tell you guys all the time when I buy a guitar, and sometimes you guys are like, I get rid of it. I've told you this a million times. I'll say it a million times more. Well, I've told you 200 times. If you want to know if I love a guitar, if I'm keeping a guitar, it's got to be at least 1 year after I get it. If a guitar is with me a year after I buy it, I've pretty much not only liked it past the honeymoon, but it's not even about that. It's any of its issues I've either decided I'm okay with or it doesn't have any. It's usually in the first year where I'm like, I like this guitar. I love the way it looks. I like the way it sounds, but it's driving me crazy because like what you're having, an issue like that. And it just sucks. It just sucks. Sometimes the guitar's got to go. How it works. Or in some cases, I know this is long. Sorry, I'm going so long on this one topic, but in some cases, like I told you guys before, my Mira, one of my favorite guitars, the neck moves on that because that neck's tiny. It's not what I like. It just happens to be kind of tiny. And it moves a little bit. And I run the action pretty silly low. And I've just learned that I have to deal with that every once in a while. So I adjust that guitar about once every year, which is why the truss rod cover is never on that guitar. Because when I wake, if it's one day it rains really hard and that guitar neck's moved enough, I'll just go and make a quick adjustment with my adjustment tool and move on the way. Do I like that? No. Does that mean it's a good guitar? No. But if there's so many other things I like about it, then that's just how it works. So it's like it's a flawed personality. Not all guitars have a perfect personality. But, it's like having a friend that's an asshole but also funny. You don't like the one part, but you love the other. All right. Okay, we're going to go to the next question. It comes from Chris, who says, hey, Phil, why do capos tend to pull my guitars out of tune once I remove them? Is there a fix? It's not really a problem. That's what they do. That's why there's different capos. You could have the wrong capo. Believe it or not, there's capos that are radius to different fretboards. You really want a capo that's made for electric if you're using electric, or capo for acoustic or a classical. So and it depends. If it's something that you're having an issue with, sometimes you don't want one of those squeezy, Kaiser capos. Those are great. I love them, man. You just clip them on. They're fast, awesome. But like if you get one of the nice Steinberger capos that are made by the Diagnose, but there's Steinberger licensed. They have the adjustment wheel and stuff where you can just put them on softly and then slowly clamp down the strings. So you don't have that issue. There's just things like that. There's so many capos. That's why there's 600 capos. It's like it's not just the capo. Sometimes it's your style. You might be a little heavy-handed, aggressive. I am. You know what I mean? I'm a give me that, stick that on there, and then I strum a chord, and like I'm not here to, I'm not a calm, as you can tell from my voice and how fast I talk. I'm not a calm demeanor person. I'm going. So, so knocking your guitar out of tune is not something that I think you should worry about. If it is bugging you, I can tell you can find better tuners. Better meaning better for you tuners. Somebody's mentioned the G7. Yeah, you know what? I have a couple tuners, and the reason are tuners. I'm sorry if I'm saying tuners now. I mean capos. The G7 is a great capo. I have a couple capos, and again, the ones I use for me, and then the ones I have in the shop, because again, sometimes I like to have what the customer has. So if a customer is capoing a guitar, a lot of times when you do setups, it's because of capos. Customers have a guitar, it plays great, they capo it, and it's fretting out, and it's a problem. So they need the neck adjusted. This is real common, a real common setup that a lot of players at home can't do. Is they can set up the guitar, play great, but once they capo, it's either the action's got to be really high for the capo to work, and again, you have to finesse that and figure out the sweet spot. So I like to have the capo if they don't bring me their capo. So I'll do that. So there you go. The other thing that ties into a question that I saw from one of the moderators. This came from Aaron. Aaron says he was demoing a Peterson strobe tuner on his channel and last night, and he was wondering what I use to intonate a guitar, I assume strobe tuner is essential for this. I use Peterson strobe tuners. That's what I use. I have, like everybody, I have every kind of tuner. Tuners are like diets. You're just going to keep trying them. It doesn't matter. Like every tuner. If somebody comes out with a tuner tomorrow, I'm going to buy it. It's the stupidest thing. I can't help it. I have them all. Peterson's probably the best. Their strobe tuners are extremely accurate. It's not even accuracy. I don't want to kind of dilute that answer. It's not just, about being perfect intonation and getting, exact, because that is important. It's really just how nicely you can get to that point. Sometimes, you want to kind of smoothly, transition into the tuner. The tuner wants, I want it to read all the way to the point where it sits. So strobe tuners are fantastic. Peterson's fantastic tuners. So on that note, I will tell you this. This is another question I get a lot. Do you have to have a Peterson strobe tuner or a strobe tuner, which is pretty much Peterson, to do setups on guitars? And the answer is no. Here's why. And what I love is, remember I was saying there's like no exact answers. You got to kind of, feel your own way through this. Even though some guitar tech luthier is going to be like, no, absolutely, you have to have it. Sure, of course. But the truth is, half the guitar techs didn't even have them. They used to be freaking expensive. They didn't have them. So very few techs used to have their nice strobe tuners back in the day. They would use other tuners. And so obviously it can be done. Hey, guitar techs on the side of stages, sometimes they use strobe tuners. Sometimes they use all kinds. Boss TU3. Boss TU2 and TU3 tuner is a tuner pedal that has been used on. I've witnessed professional luthiers setting up $5,000 guitars with a TU2 tuner. I saw it. It was right there. The only tuner in the entire shop, doing it every day. Can be done. Petersons are nice though. Like I said, luxury. If you have the ability to get a nice Peterson strobe tuner, it's an impressive piece of kit for sure. What else? Okay, we're gonna go to Spencer. Spencer says, "Hey Phil, I got a PRS SE Torero. Cannot believe how smooth it plays. Any pickup recommendations? The pickups are a little too metal for my liking. Just became a Patreon member, by the way. Thank you, man, for supporting the channel. Patreon. That's literally, I know that's like a thing YouTubers are like, thanks for joining my Patreon. But I mean, literally, so buying these guitars that you guys request, man, the Patreon thing makes that less stressful. So thank you for that. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to explain at the dinner table to my wife why I'm spending the money I made in YouTube to make YouTube. Sometimes it's like, I don't understand. So you made money this month on YouTube? Yes. But then you spent it? Yes. But don't worry. I have patrons and I think I sold a t-shirt. We're all good. Anyways, back to your question. The Torero. I'm assuming, because I don't know every model. I remember the SE Torero having EMGs, if that would be correct. So hopefully that is correct. Which means that would be metal. I mean, EMGs, which I think should be one of the best jazz pickups ever. Low output, just great pickups. Not low output, low magnetic field, just smooth sounding, clean. But I shouldn't have said low output. I apologize. However, swapping them, I can understand that for why you would want to do that. Things you have to know, you're just going to have to gut everything. You get to keep the switch. You can keep the output jack. It's going to have 3 prongs. You just have to use 2. Just ignore one of the prongs. You don't have to buy a new jack. You will have to buy 2 new potentiometers. You'll need a new volume and a tone pot. I would get rid of those 25K ones. That's what's in there for the EMGs. And I go to 500Ks. Otherwise, you're going to choke down the sound of those humbuckers. They're going to be really, they're not going to have a lot of high end frequency in them. If that's something you like, you keep the 25Ks, but I wouldn't. So you have to replace those 2 pots. No big deal. And not a problem at all. And then go with something nicer, sweeter toning. I would put something a little lower output, like a 57, 59 type pickup in there, something paffy. There's a new word for everybody. Paffy sound. Okay, so I would do that. Asa says, hey, Phil, I'm looking into getting my first Ibanez. People scared me by saying the necks were too thin. And the effect and it affects the tone. I like the 80s and metal. Do you have any recommendations for sub $700? I'm assuming guitars. Yeah, I'm gonna be on the same agreement with those assessments. The Ibanez thin, I think thin necks do affect the tone. It just seems that way. Seems like it thins it out. I don't know what it is, man. It's hard to get that chunk sound out of a thin neck guitar. It happens, but it's so rare when it does. It doesn't happen in my experience. But you can fix that with the amp. You can fix that with pickups. I mean, there's ways to improve the things. You shouldn't be scared. I understand what you're saying. People are freaking out because they're saying, it sucks and it's going to change everything. The thing to keep in mind with Ibanez, first of all, as an Ibanez fan, let me just tell you how easy this is. You want to buy an Ibanez sub $700, you're not even going to be in the thin neck territory. In other words, most of the Ibanezes that you can buy sub $700 are going to be thicker necks than like what's on this Wizard behind me neck, where this neck's so thin. I always tell everybody, it's like the neck's like a row of saltine crackers. That's literally how thin it is. It's hilariously thin. It's almost comically thin. Right. One of my favorite things to do with that guitar is hand it to somebody who's not into those guitars just to watch their reaction. Some guy comes over, we're talking, and he's like, "Oh, I like your Les Paul." I'm like, "Oh yeah, check this out." And they go, "What the hell?" and then they go, "I hate this." They don't even play it. This is like, "I hate this. It's so thin." I'm like, "Yeah, it's thinner than your hand." So anyways, your fingers. So I wouldn't worry about that. Anything in the sub $700 Ibanez is going to be a thin neck, but not as thin as the Wizard stuff. So you're good to go. Go with it. Ibanezes are good. Follow the same rules you always follow. You know what I mean? Which is make sure that you're buying from a legitimate seller. You're getting a good value for what you're spending, and you like the guitar. And in today's day and age, if you can't touch it, make sure it has a return policy. That's the best thing you can do. In the world of, buy before you try online purchases, return policies are important. They just are. So, and returning stuff is annoying, which is why you want to you educate yourself as much as possible, so you don't have to return it. You predicted the right purchase. Litvey did a microphone sticker. Thank you, Litvey. I like the sticker I got the other day too. It's really cool. I got to figure out what your currency is. It's FT299. I think yesterday you gave me FT400. I don't know what that is. So if anyone knows, I'm always curious. Sometimes I look them up after the show. I'm like, what is that? What is 300 somethings? Pablo says, what has been the most cringeworthy moment that you've experienced with someone touching one of your guitars with or without permission? That's dramatic pause, by the way, right there. I don't know. I hate to say this, but because, it's the truth, but I just hate saying it out loud. I'm better now. I used to get really upset at anybody touching my guitars without washing their hands first. Right now, a couple of my friends probably watching the show. There's probably one. They know what I'm talking about because you could tell. I'd be like, they just would touch one of my guitars. I'd be like, "Did you wash your hands?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they'd always look at me like, "Oh, him and this, that Phil, you're stupid." I literally used to freak out. Like, I would freak out. Everyone had to wash their hands before you touched my guitar. Now, let me tell you why, so you don't think I was just like OCD freaking out. I have changed. Not like I've grown. I've just changed. I used to like really new bright strings. So like literally, whether it was especially on bass, I was definitely more so this problem is on bass for me than guitar, but I really like new strings. Like putting a fresh set of strings on a guitar or bass, especially bass, was like heaven. I love that bright sound. And no matter what I did, even after a few days, it was a little duller and I didn't love it as much. So I really like bright strings. So people washing their hands was about not crudding up my strings. It wasn't about my guitars, it was about my strings. Because I'd have to buy another pack of strings. And I would, by the way. Like if a friend picked up a guitar and like my guitars, and then I played it and I thought the strings were duller now because they like, had sweaty hands or something, I would literally restring the guitar. And what changed is it's not that I don't like that sound anymore. I've learned to kind of like just like the broken in sound, different style techniques. I just don't really do that now. I don't like bright strings as much. In fact, a lot of times I'll play pure nickel strings. I play, I don't have them here. I had a bunch of packs here and I took them out to the room. DiMarzio pure nickels, I'll use those. Sometimes if I'm not using my string joy strings, anything pure nickel. So I like those, which are a little warmer sounding and duller than the bright strings, which, there you go. Not probably the story you're looking for, but at least it's what at least, something. Freeman1 says, hey, Phil, what's the best guitar to get with P90s? I've heard semi-hollow. And if so, any suggestions for a sub $500 option? I don't know if you need hollow body for P90s. I mean, I love P90s through a hollow body because they're mid-rangey. Hollow bodies are mid-rangey. That's a mid-range guitar. It really will punch. It's a fun sound. But no, I don't know if I think if I was going to pick the ultimate P90 guitar for me, it would be a Tele. So there you go. And suggestions of, I think there's a Harley Benton P90 guitar. And there's a couple Fenders. That one P90 Fender, I forget what it's called, looks cool as hell, although I don't know if I can live with one P90, but Tele style P90s, the whole sub, what would you pick at a price point thing is tough on these type shows because, I mean, I can think of 1,000 and none at the same time. But I would definitely go for like a P90 Tele style guitar. And if you're new to P90s, it's nice sometimes to buy. That's one thing that's nice about these. When people talk about these inexpensive guitars, these Glaries, Donners, Monoprice, Wolf, whatever, Harley Benton, all this stuff. One thing that please take advantage of while we have these, because they won't last forever. None of this cheap stuff lasts. Eventually, just even cheap stuff becomes expensive. One thing that's great is if there's ever been a guitar that you thought you wanted, but you weren't sure, that's a great time to buy one of those. So for instance, like, I want a hollow body, but I don't know if I want a hollow body, maybe buy one of those. You know what I mean? If I want a P90 style guitar, maybe buy one of those. A Floyd Rose, I never had a Floyd Rose guitar, but I want a Floyd Rose, maybe buy one of those guitars. One, it gets it out of your system, and two, it really helps you kind of like, it's like kind of buying a modeling amp. You get to sample all the effects and then go, okay, now that I've tried all the effects, these are the three I think I use all the time. I'll buy those. Same thing with the guitars. Sometimes it's like, I'll, try the inexpensive guitar and get it out of your system. And if you can buy them used or, find a deal, a lot of times you can buy them and then sell them when you're done. Almost no expense into that. Try something else where you can do that. It's crazy. It's like awesome. Christopher's question is, just got a Schecter PT. PT stands for Pete Townsend, so it's a Tele style guitar. Special for $300. They call the Schecter PT because one of Pete Townsend's Teles, or a bunch of them, whatever, were Schecter parts back when they were Schecter Parts Company. I'm just giving you the explanation of, I don't remember the details of the story. I just know why it's called PT. It's a special for $300. It's my first Schecter, and I can't believe the quality, but I'm going to change the bridge pickup. Who has a better hot rail Tele pickup, Duncan or DiMarzio? For mini humbuckers, for the single coil size humbuckers, I have literally all of them downstairs. Like all the DiMarzios, I mean, not all, but 20. And then like the 7 or 8 Duncans they make. I consistently like DiMarzio's mini humbuckers. And this is where it gets a little tricky. And this is just, I'm just going to, tell you, because it's not going to make sense to some of you, and some it'll make sense. I hate the way the DiMarzios look. They look so 80s. It's just like the 2 metal blades. Everything looks metal. I don't know what it is. So I used to use DiMarzio ones like 20 years ago, and I loved them. And then over time, I was like, oh, I hate this metal look. And so I would just use Duncans, and I have the Billy Gibbons, custom shop. I have the Pearly Gates Mini. I have the Screaming Demon Mini. I have the JB Mini, 59 Mini. I have them all downstairs because I like the way they looked more. They looked more legitimate. And here's what happens. They're good. No complaints. But deep down, man, when I would finally pull one out and put a DiMarzio back in, like a chopper or something like that, put them in there, man, every time I was like, man, it's really good. And it's because what I've learned is from all the experimenting I've done with the Somnium guitar and all experimenting with pickups over the last few years, what I really learned is all of the mini Seymour Duncans, to me, to my ears, to my perception, all sound like not as good humbuckers. Like they never sound as good as the full-size humbucker. To me, the mini DiMarzios all sound like really kick-ass P90s. Like noiseless P90s. You can definitely tell where somebody's ear was going, right? It's like almost if the DiMarzio guys knew, it's like we can't pull off a humbucker sound because the field is too narrow, right? It just can't get the girth of tone that a humbucker gets because it doesn't have a wide range of space to pick up the sound. It's almost like the DiMarzio guys, without telling what he said, yeah, there's no way we can make this work. We'll never make a mini humbucker sound as good. But what if we make them sound as good as like a Gibson Firebird pickup or a P90? And when I started kind of thinking in that range and that logic, I started hearing the pickups differently. To me, you stick a DiMarzio mini humbucker in something, you have one of the best sounding P90s I've ever heard. That being said, they're both good, but I prefer the DiMarzios. And why? And that's why. The Smelly Cats Jazz, hey, long time no see. Silly question. I love those. Says, who makes the best feeling knobs? You know what's sad is? You think it's a silly question. You guys are laughing. Some of you were probably like laughing besides, potty humor. But I actually I worry about that. Like I literally I think about this and this is important to me. And I do have a very textured thing where I don't like the texture of certain guitar knobs. So who makes the best feeling knobs? I would probably say Fender Strat knobs for me because I like the rough little, fan sides. I love the lampshade knobs that PRS makes. Again, I don't like knurled metal. I don't like metal knobs. I don't like the knurled metal. I don't like speed knobs. I don't like I feel like I don't know, they're too slippery. So yeah, but I mean, that's not real. It's just what I think. And switch tips, Fender. No, my favorite switch tip, I wish every switch tip was the three-way Gibson style switch tip, the screw-on switch tip, not the push-on Fender one. And I absolutely cannot stand the PRS ones. If anyone, every single PRS one is either broke, it's either cracked down the center on me, or I'm switching and it just flies off. All of mine have wrap thing. I don't know what it is. It's like this it's like they determined to not have what everybody else has, so they have their own weird shaped tip, switch tip, and it just doesn't work. Where like I said, I love their lampshade knobs; those are great. But the tips, I just can't stand the switch tips. From a practical standpoint, because like I said, they just don't work. My John Mayer one cracked. All of them crack eventually. They either crack or, like I said, they slip off. Anyways, back to your question. So that's the second. Oh, it says, got 2 projects in the works, one being my first guitar, which needs all the love it can get. Congratulations, and I don't know why I say congratulations. Have fun with your projects. Viped D says, my wife and I really got a chuckle out of the Marijuana Cookie Comedy Club story. I'm glad I could entertain you with that. I have another one. It was kind of funny. Here's a kind of funny thing. Oh, I shouldn't tell you this. I kind of feel like sometimes the podcast, I think about like Howard Stern and how he used to say on his show, he talks about his life and he's just telling too much of his life. Last Saturday, Ralph came over. We were supposed to have like an early dinner thing and I didn't do it. So Ralph had like 3 fingers of scotch and, I was having these weird Corona things. I don't know, they're like seltzer water things. Anyways, we were a little tipsy. we were watching Bowling for Soup and Anthrax in concert, right? We watch all these videos. And my wife comes in the room and said, hey, do you guys, because marijuana is legal here, and she says, do you guys want to go and check out the apothecary? Is that what it is? What is the thing? I don't know. Wherever you go, the marijuana store. It's like literally next to the coffee shop where I live. So she goes, you want to check it out? And me and Ralph apparently scared the crap out of her because we're like, yeah, that sounds fun. And we're like, you have to drive. And then my wife's like, okay. And then she left the room and it never happened. And then later she told us after dinner, I said, yeah, we never went to that store. And she's like, yeah, I wasn't taking you and Ralph while you guys are buzzed to the pot store. Dispensary. Thank you, Sean. To the dispensary. So long story short, we learned, my wife was like, and then now when she said that, her face when she came in the room and was talking to us, now it made sense to us. Like, oh yeah, you kind of look like this is the last thing you ever wanted to do. So, okay, there you go. Says, Grumpy My Guitar says, for the tip jar and why not? For what it's worth, the pain of pedal pilfering is real. I feel your pain. He's talking about like people taking your pedals. Yeah, that stuff doesn't bug me. I have enough stuff. Ralph takes things. I've taken things from Ralph too. I think I had his EQ pedal for like 5 years. So I mean, it happens. Some of you might have friendships like that where, you're like, where's my scissors? And it's like your friend just has them now. That's just how that goes. Until one day when you're like, okay, I really need my scissors back or whatever it is, right? And in my case, I think it was the actual scissors. But Gonzalo says, hey, Phil, just bought an all rosewood neck Fender professional Strat. Thinking of swapping out the pickups. Any recommendations? Hey, I have that same guitar, see? Solid rosewood Strat. Ta-da! Pickup suggestions? It depends. So I had a red. Remember, I had the red Strat with solid rosewood neck. That was a very bright sounding guitar. This is not so bright. It's still on the brighter side, but not as bright as that guitar. So it's tough. I don't have any recommendations. I mean, anything I tell you at this point would just be me like shouting out random pickups that I like. But I mean, I don't have a reference of that guitar. I would try and figure out. So you have the professional. So that's the mod shop pickups, right? Or something like that. Something vintage mod, whatever the mods, whatever, where they're half is like half the slugs are Alnico 5 and half the slugs are Alnico 2, something like that, right? Those are pretty good. I would stick, like a broken record, I would stick any kind of late 60s, early 70s fatter sounding pickups in there, single coils, by insert your favorite brand there. Those are really good. Jim says, hey, Phil, I see that flying V on the wall. Yep, me too. Says, how is it to play while sitting down? They work great. Vs are very comfortable, more comfortable when they're right. They feel great. I don't know what it is. I love the way Jackson Vs look. I like the modern V, right? I think of Megadeth. I think of, Anthrax. I think of, modern V. I think it's cool as hell. I love it. LTD, Jacksons, they are not comfortable to me for some reason. And it's not they're not comfortable. They're just not comfortable to me. I think deep down, it's not that I wanted a Gibson Flying V. It's just, for some reason, the body shape being thicker just fits right. I put it, like, literally, I put my right leg in between the V, so it's kind of going upward, so I play it more like a classical style guitar. It's fine. Not my preferred thing by any means, but absolutely fine. I literally played that guitar last Saturday for probably 2 hours straight in a sitting position, and I didn't have any issues. So, to me, a V is always just about being cool, man. All these wacky body guitar shapes are just about being cool. You're just like, you think you're cool for a minute. And I've never been cool. So thinking I'm cool is really an important thing for me. Because it's like, there's I have no moment where I'm like, I used to be cool and now I'm not cool. I was never cool. So it's all pretend. Pretending you're cool is a fun thing to do for a minute. It's fun. Ron just did a super chat for no reason. Jennifer Tan says, hi, I want a Marshall tube amp, bedroom use only, DSL 1 or DSL 20 with a volume pedal. Would a JVM be overkill? I have a budget, but I'm intimidated by to try and store. Okay, the JVM is great, and yes, it's overkill because the lowest JVM wattage you can get is the 50 watt, which is why I cannot figure out for the life of me, Marshall hasn't figured out to make a 20 watt JVM. Out of all the damn amps, Marshall's, see what you did, Jennifer? Out of all the freaking amps that Marshall's made, the JVM is the best suited for a lower wattage amp because unlike the other amps where they're making them lower wattage so when we crank them up, they can break up and yeah, they won't rip your face off. Like, don't get me wrong, the JCM 800, the Plexi style amp, 20 watt version, even in 5 watt mode, those things will rip your face off. A JVM 50 watt can turn down. So to answer your question, the JVM is not overkill in the idea that you can turn it down in the gain channel and the clean channel, but a 20 watt would be much nicer. Me, if I was presented with those choices, those 3 amps, and which one would I pick? I would pick the DSL 20 and then buy a pedal that does the JVM tone if that's what you're going after. So at playing lower volumes, what's great about lower volumes for me is a lot of the amps vibe goes away. You know what I mean? It's a different thing. Getting a good tone is a problem. It's a difficult problem. Getting a good tone quiet is a different problem. Did I say different? Both, they're different problems. So sometimes it's about getting an amp that is clean and it vibes the way you want. The DSL 20's got some reverb in it. You can put so when you play clean, you're going to have a little reverb sound going on, which is nice, clean reverb. And then you can use the dirty channel on it. You can switch down the wattage. I think it goes to 5 watts or half watt mode, whatever it switches down. But that's not my favorite thing. So, but like you said, plus a volume pedal, sure. And then, you can just put a pedal in front of it too. I think I did this. I reviewed the DSL 1 watt. Look, I'm not saying I hated that amp. What I'm saying is that, well, first, like I said in that video, the problem I have with the DSL 1 watt is everyone who bought that amp doesn't seem to have a problem with it like I did. But every single person I've met who bought the limited edition and the first DSL limited edition they did, which was a lot more expensive, and then tried the newer DSL, they're not the same. So the other one was so much better. And I get that it was more money, but it's like, it's like anything. When you try something that's really good and you try something that's less as good, there's just no way to shake that out of your mind. You're playing it and you're like, the other one was better. So that being said, I really messed up. And I think I said it in the video, and if not, I should have bought the DSL 20. I was about to do it. I was like, I was buying online, and the last minute I go, DSL 1. I really feel if I had the DSL 20, I would have kept it to this day. I would still have it. The only reason I don't have one now is because once I sold I bought the DSL, then I sold the DSL. I probably lost $100 on the deal. It's not the end of the world per se, but it doesn't make you excited to buy from a brand again when you just lost money on that brand, right? You're like, okay, because now your math in your head goes, oh, now the $600 DSL 20 is now $700 because I lost $100. So that's my suggestion. John says, I'd like a new modern axe, looking at an Ormsby Hype GTR Schecter SLS Elite. Oh man, you're looking at everything. FGM, Mythic, everything. Okay. But I can't test them. Yep. Before order, what do you recommend quality wise? I've played Ormsby's. I like them. I played Schecters. I like them. And I played FGMs. Here's this is where the advice is going to just suck. They're all very good guitars. I have no negatives or extreme positives about one brand over the other. So now the only thing I can tell you is that should hopefully make you feel better about your purchase, knowing that you just pick what you like now. There's nothing me working on them or playing them or any of that stuff that says, oh yeah, I would definitely lean towards one brand or another. All of them I've had great experiences, and all of them I've seen very little bad experiences of. Red Yamaha Bass Guy says, hello, do you know what RD model the ghouls from Ghost use? I don't. Is it modified model? I don't know. But now I'm going to go look because I'm curious. JP says, Phil, if you had to choose between the two to play through, the 212 for a cover band or the Marshall SC20 or a Runt 20. Okay, so 212 cabinet, assuming. So if I had a 212 cabinet, which one of these? I'd get the Runt. I don't even read the rest of your stuff. I'd get the Runt. That's just your question was, what would I do if I had to choose? I've had to choose. I bought the Runt 20. The only reason I don't have the Runt 20 now is because I now have a small box 50. Because, that's what you do. It's a gateway drug. I started with marijuana and I'm on heroin now. So I started with a Runt 20 and now I have a small box 50. That's just how that's what the Friedman guys did. They created that. It's diabolical marketing. Like how I'm blaming them. They did this to me. They did this. Yeah, and this is the kick in the pants of the whole thing. The Runt 20 to the small box 50. Ready? Only reason I like the small box 50 more than the Runt 20. It's the most horrible reason ever. It's not even that it sounds better. I just like having a clean channel with 3-band EQ. That's the only thing I didn't like about the Runt. I didn't like just having a volume knob and presence control and the 3-way switch. Well, the 3-way switch just doesn't work for me. It was either way too bright, too dark, or it was okay. You know what I mean? It's just, I can never find that sweet spot. I was always okay with the amp's clean channel. Nothing wrong with it. In fact, the Runt 20, if I was gigging, is perfect. But at home, where you really want more kind of tonal options to find sweet spots in your tone, because you're just playing with no bass, no drums, you know what I mean? So the amp has to be the whole center of the tone. The Runt was, a clean channel was a little hard for me to dial in. Which is why I went to the Dirty Shirley, because that way at least I could use, clean that amp up and use the EQ. And then I eventually went to the small box. Now, if you're asking yourself, why didn't you buy the Runt 50? That's because at this point, what I've done, I figured I'd go big or go home? So I went small box 50. Done. That's it. But I would pick a Friedman over. I'd pick a Friedman over any Marshall. I have both. I like both, but I would, if I had to get rid of all my Friedmans, I sound like I have a lot. I have 2 Friedmans and I have 3 Marshalls. Is that right? I think that's right. If I had to get rid of all of them but one, I can tell you right now, I don't know which Friedman I'd pick, but it would be a Friedman. And I love my Marshalls, but the Friedmans are better, in my opinion. And I bought all my Friedmans, so please don't put in the comments any crap, because let me tell you, Friedmans, I love the way they sound, and they're expensive. So it's a lot of money, but man, they're good. James says, thanks for your stupidity. Okay. And work ethic. You're welcome. For both. Okay. Did it jump? What did I miss? This is Gonzalo says, that's the Strat I just bought. Oh, yeah, the blue one, the one I picked up. Yeah, it's great. Absolutely love that neck. Dean says, I stripped the 4mm truss rod nut on a cheap import. Do you think StewMac gripper will get me out of it? It's impossible to say, but I mean, that's what I use and it works a lot. Go slow, go true, you'll make it. Yep. I mean, I use it all the time. But, there's no guarantees in life, especially if you're your first time doing it. But give it a shot. 94 Dodge dude who likes 94 Dodges. Wouldn't it be funny if he hated 94 Dodges and loved 95 Dodges, but 95 Dodge dude was taken, so he just went 94, even though that's the year he hates and 95 is the one he likes? That's what I think about when I'm reading your sign-ons. Anyways, hey Phil, why can I get my electric guitar's action so much lower than my acoustics without buzz? Oh, okay, good question. It makes sense. I use 9s on the electric and 10s on the acoustic, both at 25.5 inch scale. Why? Well, first of all, because the strings aren't the same. Not even the gauges. Screw the gauge thing. The materials of the strings are different. The phosphor bronze strings, softer materials, are going to spin more. They oscillate more. That's part of it. The other part is the angle of the necks and the way the guitars are constructed. But more importantly, before we go down any of that road, let's just talk about the real big issue. the sensitivity of the guitar to hear its own problems, right? So let me give you an example. Think about it this way. The acoustic guitars, just by the way they're constructed, they're really sensitive sound-wise, right? Like think about the body of the guitar, and just when you're touching an electric body guitar, when you're touching it, and then you're touching an acoustic guitar, you know, I mean, you can hear more movement. The acoustic's amplifying everything, right? And so it picks up a lot more of that, those problems. So that's why. There's no way around this. So that's basically the best way to put this is whatever your problem is, there's no way around it. Not that I've ever found or met anyone who's found. Jeff Parker wanted to say, hey, I appreciate that. Tour on 11 says, hey, Phil, my Behringer TO 800 level and drive has to be maxed out to hear any volume. Did I get a bad one? Thanks for all you do. I'm not familiar with that product. I mean, Behringer TO 800, but I'm going to say, yeah, it doesn't sound right. And Behringer is inexpensive stuff, which means it's going to have a higher defect rate. So it's more likely you have a defective product. So definitely have it checked. Zachary says, what's up, Phil? I have an SE Paul's guitar and I'm thinking about changing the pickups. I was thinking about the 5708s or the 5909s. What do you think? 5708s. I like the 5909s. I think, and I really do. I have 5909s in one of my custom 24s. I have 5708s in other guitars, as you know. I have 5708s in my, is it out? Oh, it's off you can't see it. There's a PRS right there. You can't see. It's got 5708s in it. I like the 5708s. I think about this. The 5708s came out in 2008, which is why they're called 5708. They're 57 type pickups that they came out with in 2008. Those pickups were the first real pickups that Paul Reed Smith made that really took to the market. In other words, you know, everybody, the Dragon 2s, all the other pickups he made were good, Tremontis, but really guitar players really, really embraced the 5708s. So of course, the next year, what did he do? He's like, oh, we'll do the 59 in 2009. So they did the 5909s. A little hotter than the 5708s, a little bit more push, like a 59 would be over a 57. I like 59s and 57s. Generally speaking, if you were to give me a bunch of 57 type Seth Lover type pickups and a bunch of PAF 59 type pickups, I would wager to bet that if you gave me 10 of each, I would like more of the 59 pickups than the 57s. I generally like the 59s better. In Paul's case, Paul Reed Smith Guitar's case, for some reason, I like his 5708 better than I like his 5909. That's really, I came close to figuring out, it's not even that I like the 57 better than the 59. It's like I like other 59s better than the PRS 59s, where I like the PRS 57s better than a lot of the other 57s out in the market. So that's why I would go with that. Robert Baker says, hello, Phil. Robert Baker from New Jersey, a lawyer, not long-haired guitar player from a YouTube channel. This is very important. You know, yeah. Says, hey, Phil, just a tip for the Evertune Fund. Have an amazing weekend. I'm working on that too, by the way. I'm getting closer to that. I have something in store. Licks Pig says, in the middle of my first refret. Okay, so he's in the middle of the first refret. I have a board leveling and I've decided to oil the finished telly neck. My question is, which direction should I clip the frets or down? Okay, I don't want to dissect this anymore. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I think he's talking about using the fret nippers when he's cutting the ends of the frets. Should you go downward like this or from the side? I think that's where he's going. Go downward. That's the way I like to do it. Clean cut at an angle is going to help you for the problem when you come from the side is, especially if you're doing stainless steel. When you're doing stainless steel and you come downward, it is a freaking nightmare. It's so much harder to clip. Okay. So sometimes you have to come from the side that way, but I like to come downward and get that cut at an angle so it's less work later. But I've seen it done both ways, so you know. But I like to come downward angle. Unless it's stainless steel. Sometimes I'm just fighting stainless steel. Depends on which nippers I'm using. Bradley says, I got a 78 Ibanez ST100. It needs new bridge posts. I can't seem to find any for it. Got any ideas? I don't want to go aftermarket for the bridge because it was my dad's. We lost him in this past December. I really hate to hear about your loss. You know, I've lost both my parents, so I understand. In that case, the problem with, of course, with Ibanez, like a lot of manufacturers, old parts like that, is they made their own parts, or they contract those parts, and you know, through the years they've discontinued them. It's really tough. The only thing I would tell you is there are vintage Ibanez forums, and at this point, Bradley, what I would highly recommend is joining one. Right? Just go out there. I know forums suck. They suck. One more time. They suck because forums are 50-50. 50% assholes and 50% helpful people. That's why everybody's given up on forums. It's because it's like forums. Everybody hates forums. I don't know anybody who's. In fact, if you like a forum, you're probably the problem with it. So, but they are essential. They are necessary because it's a group of people who have the same interests, and you can find someone who can help you. And so I would go out on the Ibanez forums, especially the vintage Ibanez forums. There's all kinds of stuff like that, and even specific types of Ibanezes, so you can even get more finite in your type of guitar that you have that you like. For instance, the ST100, and put that out there. Okay, that what you have, your problem. I've done it many times. I have to do it for customers all the time. Hell, back before Kaler came back in existence, it used to be, it was feast or famine to find a Kaler part. For every time a customer came with a Kaler guitar, I thought I was going to die, because just, you know, you knew that's what your next week was. 5 hours of looking for a Kaler part. Thank goodness Kaler came back, you know, out of bankruptcy. They came back and started making parts, and you could get parts. But until then, if it wasn't for forums, I would be screwed half the time too, because I could go on a Kaler forum and say, hey, look, I'm looking for this part. Believe it or not, happens more times than not. Okay, you'll get some cool person, man, who's just crazy enough to burn the midnight oil for you. You get a message a couple days later, and they'll be like, hey, I found on japaneseparts.gov.net something. there's the thing you need. It's just so there you go. I was going for the humor in that. So there you go. If that helps. All right. Are we done? I think we're done. I think we did the show. I think we have a couple more. Let's do it. Let's knock them out. We have a couple more. No more super chats, because that way we'll end on the 2-hour mark, which is ideal for me because I got to timestamp all this stuff. It says, Dan Dickey Music says, your thoughts on the Epiphone-inspired acoustics, as good or better than the older Chinese-made Guilds, GID. I have not tried them. Epiphone is, like I told you guys, basically there's certain brands that I just, they're not, I got to buy them to get them on the channel. So if that's, and I tell everybody, if you want to make suggestions of guitars you think I should get on the channel, and I'll do that, put them out there on the videos, put them out there here, do that. I give the patrons priority of that. But when I say priority, it's, I guarantee whatever the number one guitar that the patrons pick, I'll do that one. So I do that. And then I buy multiples, so then I try to come back and overflow back over to you guys. So I've been nailing it both sides very evenly. So like I said, I like doing it that way. Trust me, in a perfect world, very clear with you guys, in a perfect world, I would never work with any company ever. Even though most of these companies are my friends. I don't disagree with anything anyone says on the internet. Working with companies is a necessary evil. It's like anybody. If you have a job, if you own a business and you don't understand the concept of necessary evils, like, hey, my boss is a douche, but I got to be nice to him. If you don't understand these things in life, you're probably not doing very well. You have to play along with people. It's not that I have a problem with companies. It's not like but you got to understand, I like reviewing more than demoing. I like telling you guys, well, not you guys. I like looking at something and just kind of going through it emotionally, what I think. And I have more ability to do that when I bought it. Not because I'm afraid of what the company thinks, because obviously that doesn't seem to matter to me because I've seemed to burn enough of those bridges. But what it is there's an element that I can't explain to you guys even if I bought the guitar just to review it, to sell it, trust me, it's something in the review. There's a tonality in the review that's not more honest. It's just more, emotional when it's like, okay, I had $1,000. Now I have this guitar. How do I feel about that? That's important. That's an important part of a review. I had money. Now I have this thing. How does this thing make me feel? I know how it felt when I had the money, like I could buy a thing, right? So, like I said, in a perfect world, we would just buy the gear and I would just review it and then sell it off. And if I lost money on some pieces and I made money or broke even, it would work. But to do that, literally every video would have to do 100,000 views minimum. I mean, that's just reality. And I thought over the time, the channel would build to that. That's the goal of my channel. My goal of my channel, very clearly, and all the companies that work with me really closely know this because I'm the ones I work with the closest, I'm most upfront about with this. My goal on YouTube is to never talk to a company in any form or phrase. So there you go. That's my goal. But in the meantime, I work with them because the ones that will work with me is great. We can get some extra products on the channel because, like I said, otherwise I do one video a month. So, all right. Matthew says, I just ordered the Mod Shop Strat, my first ever Strat. I'm more of a Les Paul guy. Can't wait. I get it. He just wants to share that. I know that feeling. I want to tell you guys. So Matthew, I understand you super chatting me so we could talk about the fact that you just got a guitar that you ordered from the Mod Shop and you're excited about that. To give you an idea how I relate to that, I have a guitar coming tomorrow that I'm fearful that won't come until Monday. And all I want to do is tell you guys what it is. I had a guitar made too as well. Same as you. Not a Mod Shop, something else. But boy, it's like I can't keep a secret. I want to tell everyone. So I'm not, because I want to review it. But in your case, yeah, I understand that. Congratulations. I think the Mod Shop's a cool thing. Back in the day, 2 years ago, a couple years ago, I thought the Mod Shop was a little pricey for what it was. In today's market, it's not that out of line anymore. I think it's because the Mod Shop hasn't been really I haven't looked in the last couple months. So if it's gone crazy again, I apologize. Please don't go there and go $2,800. I thought Phil said this is more online. I thought the last time I built out some Mod Shop type guitars, I thought I was in the $1,800 range for something custom cool, $1,900 range. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a lot of money. But now that a basic Strat or basic Fender type American made guitar is, $1,600, it doesn't feel it doesn't feel crazy to me to have something custom. I like having unique stuff. I put the tremolo and the chrome covers on this V so that it's unique, right? I made this a one pickup guitar to be unique. I like unique stuff. I think it's cool. It's cool. It's like how many people have a white Parker? Me and Dave Navarro. It's good company. For me, I don't think Dave Navarro is ever going to go, I have one just like Phil McKnight. If he does, please let me know because I'm a huge fan. Wanna Beetle. What's up, Wanna Beetle? Wanna Beetle says, Phil McKnight, have you had a 180 on a set? What? Oh, have you had a 180 on set of strings? Did you hate them at first and then be in lust with them later? I used to love, oh, okay. I know where we're going with this. I think that's where we're going with this. I use labella flats on a customer's bass and I like them after hating them. Yes. So the core of that question or the core of that comment is, yes. Have you ever, had a 180 on something? Ever changed your mind because of an experience? Yes. That I think I've heard a couple things about this, right? You've heard things about your taste bugs, right? Your taste bugs change. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So, this is just random crap I think I remember reading on the internet. Your taste bugs change every 2 years or 10 years or some crap. So you have to retry foods. Because you might not, you might like them now. I don't remember the details of that. That's obviously why I'm saying 2 to 10 years, whatever. But you get the concept of it. I think your ears are the same way. Now, keep in mind, like your taste bugs, your ears change. I used to work. Here's a funny story. We're gonna have a funny story at the end of the show. Here's a funny story. I used to work in a piano store. I sold organs and pianos when I was a kid. That's how I met Ralph. We used to work in that store together. And one day, we sold this elderly couple a piano or organ. I don't remember which one. Doesn't matter. It's not relevant to the story. What's relevant is they spent a fortune on it. And the guy, the gentleman, called the store and complained to the manager that it was broken. Now, you got to remember, I'm 18, I don't know how old I was. Young. So we drove. The manager sent us to this person's house. It wasn't me and Ralph. It was me and another person. But me and this other worker went to their house, and we went to their door, and they walked in the room. I'll never forget this. And they said, "Look, the high key on it doesn't work." And the old man. He's hitting the key. Meanwhile, it's like piercing our ears, like bing, bing, bing. And he's like just hitting it. See, bing, bing, bing. He's not mad, but he's like overzealous with it. He's like bing, bing, bing. And we're like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? This guy's nuts. And we're like doing that thing that young kids do where they look at each other and then they look at the old person, look back at each other like they're in Bizarro World. And I don't know anything. I'm a dumb kid. I'm barely different than now, but much worse then. And so we're like, oh, we'll have somebody come out and fix this because we didn't know what to say. You're crazy, dude. So we get back to the store and we tell the manager. Now the manager's, he's like in his 50s and he's tenured. And we tell him what happens, and he goes, "Oh yeah, the guy's lost his high-end hearing. That happens all the time. Why don't you just tell him his high-end hearing's gone?" And we're like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, you get a certain age when you're a man." He goes, "You can't hear high frequencies. Women lose low frequencies. Men lose." And he explained this whole thing to us, which is, by the way, true. So here's the deal. Your hearing changes. Your taste buds changes. So back to one of Beatles' question about 180 on strings, like, liking the labella flats, not like them, and then liking them. Absolutely. You'll really see this new guitar that I have coming. You'll see this guitar is probably the culmination of literally my current world view on guitars right now. Because of that reason, I'm changing. My ear's changing. Things I like warmer tones now, fuller sounds. It's kind of like there's a quote. This I got right. Paul Gilbert once made a great quote. He said, "When I was young, I used to like low action little strings and hard picks, and now I like tone." I forgot where I was when he said that, but it was funny. It was funny. I feel the same way. Slowly over which, wannabe to, yes. Slowly things, like I said, I used to like bright strings. I liked everything to snap and kind of snap you in the face with high frequencies. And over time, I'm like, now I just like, I want everything to feel smooth. Because when the women like Peter Cetera, you like Peter Cetera. If you guys remember that commercial. Anyways, Jimmy T568. This is our second to last one. So Adam's the last one. It says Highlander Guitar just gave me a guitar to. Highlander Guitar just gave a guitar to a friend's kid just because he wanted it to learn. What are your thoughts on philanthropy? Well, I'm for it. Okay, so I'll tell you a funny thing. I try to give away guitars, which I do pretty often, and has nothing to do with being on YouTube. Has nothing to do with the store we did too. First of all, if you have a business, which is hard for a lot of people to understand, I have a business. Literally, these guitars, this microphone, this room I'm in, which is in this house, all bought with the money I made in this industry, the music industry. Repairing guitars, building products and selling them, owning this, retail establishments or other establishments, obviously YouTube channel, all the things I've done in my life for the last almost 18 years, is a company that does this. So of course you want to be philanthropical because you want to donate, because it's, first of all, it's not because it's a tax credit. The tax credit's really not that so amazing, but it's more amazing if you make a lot of money. If you make good money, it's just a way to help the community and help people. So you want to do that. What I found is I found all the ways I can do it. But now over the years, as I've been very, I don't want to say tenured because it just sounds so silly to keep saying it, but it's true. I've learned to be as philanthropical cautiously as I can. There's no better feeling than when you help somebody with music or with musical things, like when you help somebody improve their life. There's no better feeling. Nothing feels better than that. It's a high, just is the greatest. I'm not going to say there's no worse feeling. There's much worse, but nothing deflates that feeling as fast as finding out that the person you gave it to wasn't authentic or didn't care. I know I'm using the word authentic. I almost feel like Gibson took that word away, but you get the idea. So I love that idea. Which is why I try to do things like I said, we're doing the giveaway. We do things when we do giveaways, guitars. It's like you want to give a guitar to somebody, you want them to love it. You don't want to find it on Reverb the next day for sale. You know what I mean? That's great that they gave a kid a guitar. That's really cool. I gave the I think I told you guys this. I gave the glare guitar. I modded into the stainless steel and I gave that to a kid. Same thing. So it was one of those stories. My wife knew somebody. This kid wanted to play guitar, and she asked me if there was a guitar we had laying around like that cheap. They could buy dirt cheap, and I usually have a couple, you know what I mean? I always have like maybe a company sent a guitar and I reviewed it and it was inexpensive. And I just didn't have anything to give the kid that I felt was worthy of giving the kid. And then I go, I'll just give him that guitar because it plays as good as anything I own. And I made it and it's cool. So there you go. Adam's last question says, thanks for all the help. Phil, tuners went on smoothly. Awesome. That's kind of summing up how we started. Thank you, Adam. I was curious to see which way you went with. I'm pretty sure you went standard 3. 3 tall, 3 short, or 3 short would be how I do it. But like I said, David says, no punished deed goes good taste. I love the play on the words there. Yeah. But it should never stop you from wanting to do nice things. You have to do nice things. Look, if you're in a position to help people, do that. Feels great. As long as you can, because you should be always happy that you can. All right. On that note, we did 2 hours, so we're going to call it. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you for all the super chats and all the questions. If I missed any super chats, I will make sure to scoop them next week. There will be a show earlier this Wednesday. Here's the kick. I had it wrong. It has to be at 12 noon my time. That's 3 hours earlier than normal on Wednesday. That will help the European market time zones and works better for me in my situation. So it's there you go. So Wednesday. Also, don't forget that if you want to sign up for the Instagram, win the StewMac stuff, it's free. You can do that. Like I said, it's up to you guys. If you want to sign up, if you win, you don't win, you want to unsign up the Instagrams, do that too. I could care less. I just, like I said, they were nice enough to give $1,000 worth of stuff away. I think, you might as well enter. Worst case scenario is now Instagram knows you exist. And if that's a problem for you, then maybe don't do it. On that note, thank you guys so much for your time. Have a great weekend. Till next Wednesday, know your gear.